Hey guys, welcome back. In the second half of the class, we're going to talk a little bit about the Spanish economy and how it looks like, which sectors are important in our economy. First thing, let's talk a little bit about where Spain ranks in the world in terms of how large our economy is. And I don't know if you can see it. We are here. Spain economy is 1.66% of the world, and I mean that's like a 20th of the American economy. So we are relatively, tiny but not tiny economy in the world. I mean, it's still relatively big for Europe. I mean, actually, we are the. I mean, if you talk about the European Union, we are at the moment the fourth largest economy in the European Union after Germany, France, and Italy. Now that the UK is not there anymore, and if you talk about GDP per capita, we are. I mean, actually, we're farther behind. Obviously, countries like the Netherlands or Northern European countries are better off than Spain. But and if we talk about trade balance, because we're going to talk a little bit about a few concepts to give you an image of how the Spanish economy looks like. I mean, Trump will not be happy here either because we have a trade deficit. That trade deficit is reduced with the crisis. Actually, now was increasing. Again, this is only updated up until 2016, but historically we've had a trade deficit as well. I mean, and who do we trade with? And actually, this should be no surprise. We mentioned before how important joining the European Union was, but our main exporting partners are France, Portugal, Germany, and by far, actually, I mean, now the UK is going to be seeing what happens there. But yeah, by the end of the day, within the European Union, in terms of exporting, also the United States is an important trading partner. And yeah, China relatively not that important. Morocco and Maghreb, we mentioned already that Northern Africa is a strategic aim of Spanish foreign policy. And if we talk to you about import, who do we import from? We import mainly from Germany, France, but then China becomes important as well. I mean, this is very similar to other developed countries, and obviously European focus is very, very relevant, and actually quite interesting how the Netherlands ranks there with 4.2, and how important for the Netherlands is to trade with Southern European countries. And actually, you know that today and tomorrow they're European. Well, never mind, but they're going to be discussing what are the mechanisms to tackle the economic crisis within the European Union. And obviously, the Netherlands has a different position to the one supported by Southern European countries. Never mind. But at the end of the day, you can see how the trade balance looks for Spain and who are our main trading partners, how France and Germany are basic for Spain and how we trade with them mainly. And also Portugal is quite interesting how we export more to Portugal than what we import to Spain from Portugal. And what do we export? What does Spain send abroad? Actually, quite interesting. I mean, and this is something that I don't know if you knew, but actually, tourism is a basic part of our economy. I mean, it's our out of the third sector, is our main activity, and we receive visitors from mainly from European countries. The UK was actually topped of that list. It's to be seen what happens after Brexit. But yeah, also in the services, we can see communication, telecommunications. We can see transport. We were actually for a long time relatively big car producer. There are a few car manufacturing plants in Spain. Obviously, you can see how agriculture plays a big role in our economy as well. And you can, I mean, just for the sake of it, you can research these data. And I'll always find these figures very interesting. You can find them easily in the internet. But by the end of the day, you see how tourism plays a big role there. But remember that this is export. I mean, obviously, this does not reflect the whole picture of the economy. This is only what we are exporting abroad. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit about a few sectors. And the first one is we have to talk about is tourism. Tourism, we are actually the second largest tourism destination in the world, only after France. And that's incredible if you think about the size of the country and the population of the country. If you compare us to the US or France, we are relatively, to France, we are two-thirds of France, pretty much. And Spain ranks strongly there, and it's been increasing, even though last year only grew 1%, but the growth was steady. And actually, this is going to be a problem. And this speaks about the Spanish economy and how permeable we are to crisis abroad. Because well, right now Spain is going to struggle with the whole coronavirus crisis. That's pretty obvious, as any other country in the world, but particularly more. Why? Because we are rely on people visiting Spain, and actually that's not going to happen. So this is going to be a big struggle for Spain the upcoming year. That being said, obviously, um, same thing happened with the 2008 financial crisis, but yeah, I mean, we haven't changed the structure of our economy, and we still rely in this tertiary, in this third sector products that do not generate much added value. Another sector that was important actually before the economic crisis, before 2008, now it's reduced its size within the Spanish economy, was housing. Housing was also very important. You can see it here that over 2.5 million people were employed in this sector, and almost this sector almost disappeared. We're going to talk about that in the next class when we talk about the 2008 economic crisis. And you can see how important it was for the Spanish economy. We are actually talking about, I mean, 100 billion in Spanish terms, 100 trillion, I think. I mean, don't take my word for the figures, but by the end of the day, it was a big part of the economy. And actually, this was, I mean, we'll talk about it and the whole how this bubble exploded also in Spain at the time of the financial crisis in 2008, and that was devastating for Spanish economy. And this sector, I mean, it's reduced quite a lot since 2007. Another sector that is important in Spain is actually the financial sector. Banking is, I mean, Spanish banks also struggled during the economic crisis 2008. Why? Also, part of it had to do with how the Spanish banking system was designed. There were certain banks that were not exactly private banks, even though they operated as private banks, but they were managed by public authorities, and these were what we call cajas de ahorros. And cajas de ahorros were the ones actually defaulting during the economic crisis. What happened there is that we're quite connected to the political power, and they were the ones financing any political project mostly. If anyone had to ask for a loan for any kind of project that had any political interest, you could be sure that one of the cajas de ahorros were going to grant that loan no matter the risk of it. I mean, here we're obviously talking about big projects, and what happened was that actually these cajas de ahorros, they needed to be bailed out with the economic crisis, and here we're talking about billions. I mean, 100,000 millions for us, so that would be 100 billion euros worth put into the rescue on the bailout of the cajas de ahorros, and then the money was not really recovered. After that, actually, the Spanish banking sector was restructured, and what happened was that banks that were healthy, so to say, took over the good assets of these cajas de ahorros, and actually that resulted in a stronger banking sector in Spain. This is how actually nowadays Spanish banks rank in the world. Actually, Santander, being the 12th bank in the world in such a small country as ours, is quite relevant. Actually, Santander has business abroad. Obviously, South America is important. The UK is important. Actually, they were trying to expand both Santander and BBVA to the United States. But you see how now the Spanish banks, at least for this economic crisis, they're going to be in a strong position. They're going to be in a healthy position, so to say. So the banking sector quite important in Spain. Actually, here we're only talking about the main sectors. I'm going to talk about the energy sector. And actually in Spain was really relevant. First thing I have to tell you is that we have an energetic deficit that is massive. We produce way less energy than we consume. We produce around 20% of the energy that Spain needs. And it was a pity. I mean, it was a pity. Of course, the economic crisis was a pity. But at that time, Spain was doing particularly well with renewable energy. And we were kind of pioneers in that sector. I mean, we were in the avant-garde of the research on these energies. And particularly a company that was established here in Sevilla and had his, and it still has its headquarters here in Sevilla, that is Abengoa. They were actually top of the world in this kind of industry. However, because of the economic crisis, Abengoa lost a lot of money. Political decisions were made with renewable energies in Spain that made no sense whatsoever. But still, there are other branches in the energy sector that, and actually, we talked about absolutely. We talked about the energetic companies, energy companies when we talked about lobbying in Spain and how relevant energy companies are in this country. And but yeah, once again, the key factor here is that we have a public deficit a public deficit, energetic deficit in this country. And even though we do have strong energy companies, and here we can call Endesa, Gas Natural. We have quite a few of them, and they're quite relevant for our economy, but still they do not produce all the demand of the Spanish people. Last thing I'm going to tell you today about the economic structure. I know this is a puzzle with very different pieces here. Is about labor market. I don't know if I showed you, I think I have, if I'm showing you this graph already, but you can see how unemployment is looked since, and this is going to be just a snapshot because we're going to comment on labor market later in the course. Actually, in 2 classes from now, I think I'm going to be talking about labor market and labor market regulations. But actually, what I want to tell you today is how one of the main variables for Spanish economy is our unemployment figures, and how unemployment in Spain is incredibly high for any developed country, and how 3 times in our history we've gone over 20%. I mean, in our democratic history, that is only 40 years, we've gone over 20% unemployment, and trying to find how many times the US has gone over 20% unemployment. And actually, for sure, with these crises, we're going to go once again quite likely above 20% unemployment. Right now, we were with the figure right now was not this one. This was 2015 when we started recovering from the crisis. Right now is 13% that we should be around here, which is pretty good because by the end of the day, we create and we destroy jobs rather quickly. But by the end of the day, these shocks of the market and how our economy is structured in sectors that are very permeable to any crisis and they're easily to destroy these jobs, make it very variable and very vulnerable, our labor market. So guys, this was it. I'll see you again next week. It's kind of a weird time because next week was meant to be Feria here in Spain, in Sevilla. Will be a fantastic week, but this year we are not going to be able to have it. I hope you make it some other year to Feria here in Sevilla because it's absolutely worth it. We are going to still have class next week. I'm going to still be posting the videos. So yeah, have a nice weekend and I'll see you again next week, guys. Bye.